Welcome everybody, my name is Jansen, SPCT candidate and founder of the RTE Summit. Let me explain a little bit further what we're going to do in this session, for some in the morning, some in the evening. We'll first start with a short introduction, then some RTE stuff in general, the 5.0 overview, and then into the big picture of 5.0, what are the big differences and some details for the interesting for the release train engineer. And then we're going to close with some Q&A at the end. So to be honest, this is my first webinar in my whole life. So be friendly to me, help me out a bit where possible. But if the technology is working, then I will probably manage. So sit back and relax. Again, my name is Jansen. I'm a consultant at Lane Consulting and trainer at Gladwell Academy. And I'm a lot involved in Lean-agile transformations. Typically larger enterprises starting to work in a Lean-agile way on scale, a lot using SAFe. Two niches for me, niche markets. That's the release train engineer, the chief scrum master role. That's I would say one of the most important roles to have a skilled agile framework implemented in a robust way and improving that. And besides that, I do quite some work on the agile and control side. So I work a lot with financials, controllers, PMO office to see, okay, hey, we've got now these self-organizing teams, and now what? How to deal with that? So bridging the gap again. There's my LinkedIn address. If you need to get in contact, you know how to reach me. At Gladwell Academy, we have a lot of trainings and coaching going on. So you see here all the trainings that we deliver around the globe. If you are looking for a specific course, I would say have a look at the Gladwell Academy website, and you can see whenever the trainings are provided. They're conducted in-house. They're also conducted like in an open enrollment setting. So this is a little bit of what we as Gladwell Academy do as a training company. We are RTE, so we are the ones that are release train engineers, and we drive this transformation and improvement of the agile ways of working in general. And I'm an RTE as well. Currently not. I'm helping to start up agile release trains at the moment. Right at this moment, there's a first system demo of the new agile release train that I helped to launch, which is a pity for me that I can't be there. But I'm just one of those trainers that has also been an RTE for real life, and I know that's different. So I hope to be one of you as well. So I've also been written 7 Habits of Highly Effective RTEs, just the first white paper, just to get some additional information in and to share that to other chief scrum masters. I'm looking into writing a second version, so if you have any ideas on topics that I should cover in this nice white paper, let me know. If you want to write something, let me know. We can have it in the second version. So I'm just writing some additional stuff that you cannot find online yet for the release train engineers. Of course, this is my baby, the RTE Summit. I'm a proud founder and chairman basically of this summit. For the 5th time now, we'll have it in Europe, 9 and 10th of November. It will be in a railway museum, pretty cool location. And for the first time, we'll have a global version as well in New York. So that will be in June. So if you're US based, this might be the meeting for you to join. This is a highly inspiring event, and it's growing over and over, and it really helps us to grow a community. The other way to grow that community is by joining this release train engineer LinkedIn group. This is just a way to connect people and help them to reach out to each other. So here's Yvonne Pomstra, one of the RTEs at KLM Air France, just asking a question in this group. So just another way for you to connect to each other, to share information. And then the topic you've all been waiting for a year now, SAFe 5.0. I'll start with the overview. This is the big picture. And on the top end, you will see these forms, essential, SAFe, large solution, portfolio, just as we used to. Now we also have a nice overview tab. This is just a brief paper, I think 30 pages, explaining on high level the changes in 5.0. And if you want to learn more, I would definitely recommend to give this a go. It's free downloadable for all of you. Go to the website, resources, and save white paper. Besides that, there are some pretty cool videos on the 5.0 version online available for you. So if you go to YouTube and search for say 5.0, you'll see these movies coming up. A couple of my colleagues like Ilko and Anand, you see there talking about 5.0. At the bottom end, you see Joe Valone, who was talking at the RTE Summit last year, a little bit about 5.0 and what's coming up. So if you want to learn more about say 5.0 in general, read that white paper and have a look at some of these videos. So what I'm not going to do is exactly cover what they already covered. So I'm going to have a high over look in just 20-25 minutes, explaining a little bit what's in there typically for the RTE. So if there's questions, you can ask the questions in the chat. At the end of this webinar, we'll have a look at the questions that are asked, and I can see if I can answer them or can help you out. I might not be able to answer all questions. I was in Boulder a couple of weeks ago and I've been told everything about 5.0, so I should know everything, but I don't. So if there's some really tough questions for me, then I have to come back to that later, but I'm sure that I can provide an answer over time. You will receive an email after this webinar with a link to the YouTube movie. So this is recorded and will be published on YouTube. So you can watch it again later and later again. Show it at home to your family about this cool RTE stuff and so on. So that's coming up, right? Okay, nice movies. So a little bit about how did I achieve my 5.0 certification? Well, everybody who has a certification and is in good standing is able to upgrade to 5.0 for free. So what I did, just sharing that, I printed out the overview, which you see left bottom, and I've watched the movies, I've read the article, and I've made some notes for myself in, well, it's a combination of Arabic and Japanese, kind of works for me. But this is a way for me to learn and to understand how it all works together, just giving my tips there, how I learn and how I achieved, I think, 98% passing score. Well, just sharing some information. Then back to this beautiful new picture. What a beauty. Immediately we see at the top that it's all about business agility. So this is the next new thing for scaled agile, to go to business agility, away from technical agility to the overall business agility. So how to become agile, adaptive as an enterprise, which is really the next step. How to achieve that? Basically, we have these competences. We already learned about competences in 4.6. So some are new, some are a bit changed, but globally at the left side now you can neatly organize, see 6 competences, and the one in the center below is still there. It's about Lean-agile leadership. So basically you need these competences to make it all work. To learn more about these competences, you could go to the overview tab that you see on the top here. So now we see the full safe picture. If you would click on overview, then you would go to this beautiful picture, which is the overview of safe. Basically, this is what you need to achieve business agility. In the center, we have the customer. And I think this is really a cool next step. So to really put the customer in the center. This is easy to say. The question is, what is the customer for you? Right? Are you in business to consumer business or business to business, building cyber physical systems, or just some smaller parts as a supplier for other companies? But however, to put the customer in the center is really essential here. And you can see that in all the material that's now coming up. So all the trainings, all the courses, all the articles are really centered around the customer, because in the end, the customer is our end boss. So if the customer is not willing to pay for our nicely produced services and products, we will be out of business anyway. So it's putting customers at the center of everything. Around that, we have these competencies. Some are kind of same as in 4.6, a little bit updated, and some are really new. What is still there is team and technical agility. It's a little bit updated and changed. You see now building quality is part of it as well. And what's really good to say here, and it's not pointed out in this picture that well, but the heart of scaled agile, the heart of scaling agile for SAFe is still the agile team. So left bottom you see agile teams, and nothing beats an agile team. That's still the case, except for a team of agile teams, which are still nicely working together in a long-lived system that we call an agile release train. So essentially on that end, not so much has changed. The risk might be, however, like with pictures like this, that we focus more on the enterprise and portfolio management, and that's also really important stuff. But we always have to keep in mind, it's the people that left below here, not left behind, but at the left end below, the agile teams, they add the real value in the end, right? They deliver the stuff that we need to satisfy our customer. Then a little bit to customer centricity. So I've got some questions and feedback from people who are joining this session about, okay, how to keep the customer centric in everything that you do. You as a release train engineer in your agile release train, how to keep the customer in the center of everything that you do. It's hard to give a general answer there. So it really depends on your business and on how you advance in delivering value and how you deliver your business solutions. Just if you would go to the Scaled Agile website, you can read how they approach it. So you can read about empathy maps and customer journeys and so on. So I think really good tools. So you can make use of that. If you would Google online, you will find tremendous amount of examples and what to do and what not to do. So there's a lot there that you can just steal and pick and make useful for yourself. Typically, there's the safe way of approaching this is also via research, and I think that's important. Why? Because I see that I often don't see research as an important source of input for decision making. So market research, for instance, to define our product strategy, or user research to define our product designs. Are we really researching? Are we really doing some effective research on our customers to really understand what they need and what they want and what they're willing to pay for? Probably we would like to do more than we actually really do. At least that's what I experience a lot when walking around. Well, just some of my experiences, what I have done often is to bring shopping baskets to a PR planning event, for instance, and then do some role play. So I'll put on some funny hats and say, hey, I'm a customer. Here's my shopping cart, and then after every iteration, say, okay, what am I going to get out of this? What am I able to sell or to use? How's the world changed? What risk did we take away? What product or service is now available in the first version or not? So every iteration basically should deliver some useful stuff that I could put in my basket. So make it very tangible. In a funny way, I would say. Do some role plays and do something with hats and masks and so on. Have some fun as well. So what we see being used more and more is the personas. So this is an example of a company I work with. It's a Dutch company. They have 3 personas. So everything they do is for one of these personas. And there's whole lists of treats of these different personas. They are real characters. And why I like this example so much is that these people, they really showed up at the company every week in the same clothes as their persona. So they were really playing that role. And as a team or as a program, you could invite these personas physically to attend your meeting. So this was really taking that persona stuff to this next level, I would say. But this is, everybody can do this. It doesn't cost any money. It might feel a little bit strange, however, if you're not used to it. But I would encourage you to just start experimenting with it. Have some fun. And if it doesn't work, of course, change it again. So another way to involve customers, especially if they are internal customers, is to have a real close look at who are our stakeholders, stakeholder map, who are our customers, are they our customers or customers of customers? And for instance, what I start doing at some of the Agile release trains for specific events like the PI system demo, I really measure how many of our customers or stakeholders, business stakeholders, are attending these specific meetings. So with some pictures that you can take from the intranet from the company and some magnetic boards, you can easily count who's there and who's not. Right? There's also some peer pressure stuff there, of course, and also a nice moment for some engineers to practice the names again of their stakeholders. This is really practical stuff that you could start using as well. What you see at the right side is an invitation for a demo. So this is at the central entrance of a company where all the employees, where they log in and pass this gate here, they see this little sign, okay, there's a system demo. If you want to attend, just feel free to join. Also a way to really put the customer in the center. Finally, Gemba, go out and see. I think this is the most powerful thing that you could do to get in contact with your customers. However, also quite difficult often. It really depends on the type of customer that you have. Is it the business-to-business relationship or not? But try to see if you can get a real customer in. Invite them in your PI planning event or at your demos, or have during your Innovate and Plan sprint, have a visit somewhere. Really get this going. It will lead to so much new information, so much new insight. I really would encourage you to do so. So I mentioned here IP and PI planning. Recently I experimented also with being a good customer. So our suppliers, should we invite our suppliers as well to our PI planning events? Well, why not? We did so in a PI planning event just a couple of weeks ago, and it led to a whole array of new insights and ideas. So customer centricity, yes, our customer, but we could be a good customer as well by looking at our suppliers and being involved there as well, because that's what the whole value chain is about, in creating value for the real end customer that pays the money. So just some practical ideas of how you could improve customer centricity, just besides the thing that you can read about on the website as well. Then it's good to know that these items here, they are tied to specific forms of SAFe. So if you go to Essential SAFe, then you would see that Agile Product Delivery, Team and Technical Agility, and Lean-agile leadership, they're really in the picture. So the other items are not. Continuous learning culture is not in there. I would say, well, there's a lot there that you could learn and could use as an RTE. So if you could go to the right bottom, you see learning organization, the innovation culture, relentless improvement. I think these are real topics for the RTE to have a look at and see what you can use of that and use in your advantage as your real strength. Actually, on the RTE summit in New York, Michael Stump is going to talk about innovation culture and can an RTE drive innovation or not, and how to drive it as an RTE. So I think, yes, in our framework we see emphasis on the leadership, agility, technical agility, and agile product delivery. However, take a look at the other items as well. Then for leadership. Leadership, there's 3 dimensions there. As you can see, for all the competencies, there are 3 dimensions. So we have in total 21 dimensions. So in Lean Agile leadership, it's about leading by example, the mindset and principles, and leading the change. I want to talk a little bit about leadership and Lean Agile leadership, how it's meant to be. So if you would go to the Scaled Agile website, you would find this list. So I already mentioned, I think we could learn a lot here at the right bottom. It's not in Essential SAFe, but I think a lot of there is really essential. However, that's how it's set up right now. On the organizational agility, there's one item that I've picked out that I think is highly interesting and highly important for the release train engineer. And that's looking at the lean business operations like value stream mapping, getting an idea of lead time, wait times, how are we doing there? In many agile release trains that I've seen, we don't really have a real clue on how this is going and how to improve. And if we, as agile release train or as release train engineer, as chief Scrum Master, don't have an idea of how this works for us, then what are we doing there? So the main purpose of the RTE is to improve flow, right? So to improve flow, to deliver more value for our customer in a robust way. And we need to understand how this works for us. So my trick here is to not make it too technical, because we often don't have the numbers. But if you can make some small pictures on how it works and to help us to start the discussion, that might really help. So this picture helped me in a specific situation to get the topic on the table to discuss, okay, where are all the queues and what is the flow, what are lead times, what are cycle times, and does it really matter how fast we are if our neighbors are really slow? And well, just to create that perspective really opens a lot of discussions, I would say. So you don't always have to start with a quantitative approach. You can start a more qualitative discussion as well. And later on, you can make things more tangible by making it quantitative, right? By start to do some measurements. So what I did here, so I exported some data from a ticket tracking system, and I was able to come up with lead times and see, okay, how long does it take on average to deliver something? And these numbers were not believed when I showed them back to them. But for sure, my promise is, if you are able to come up with some numbers, you will really be able to convince people and you will win most of the discussions. It's really about getting up with the numbers, because nobody has the numbers. So if you're the RT, come up with the numbers and you're off to the races. So that was about the overview. Now on to 5.0, the big picture. So here it is again in grayish style. And I'm now going to point out some of the main differences. We already went over the competences, but what really comes into sight immediately is that we are missing the program level here and the team level at the right bottom. So this is now all labeled as essential safe. Of course, we were already heading towards that way if we were looking at, okay, what is essential safe? What do we need to have in place to allow us to call it safe? What is the essential stuff? Well, basically this is all essential. So we need these teams to deliver value together in an agile release train. That's all essential now. So we don't have a program and team level anymore. It's now essential level. So on the left side, I already mentioned it's still all about teams. However, achieving business agility has an impact on the composition of teams. Maybe not straight away, but over time. So what I mean with that is that if we are really willing to achieve business agility, then we will have to reassess the setup of our agile release trains. In many cases, the train is not able to deliver end-to-end value because there's, for instance, marketing missing, there is sales missing, there's lawyers and advocates and contracts missing. So the idea is to move away from development teams only and to work with agile teams. So now the agile team could have a more business focus and could have a more technical focus in SAFe. But the idea is to, over time, to have really these agile teams in your agile release train, and everybody included in the agile release train that's really needed to deliver business solutions. So this is a big game changer, and I think this is a big opportunity for you as release train engineer. So probably if you would look at your program board and look at your dependencies outside of your agile release train, there's a lot of people and departments and groups there that you would like to have in your agile release train to get rid of the dependencies. And why not bring them into teams and let them work together? So this is, well, starting to move away a little bit from operational and development value streams. For the people who are really deep in the development value streams, operational value streams, it will be more a mashup over time probably, because we need to develop business solutions, and to be able to do that, we need not only developers and engineers in there, we need the other people as well to deliver the end-to-end product. So that's about the agile teams. Big change. A smaller change is what we see here after the first PR planning event icon. You see there continuous exploration and continuous integration, continuous deployment as arrow, as chevrons, the blue chevrons going up. Just to point out that it's very important to have that in every iteration, to do all of that every iteration, and to avoid waterfalling the sprints. Waterfalling the iterations. So in iteration 1, do exploration, in iteration 2, do the continuous integration part, and then in iteration 3, do the continuous deployment part. Or even worse, waterfalling the PIs to do such work per PI. This is just making that more clear and underline that. On the left side, you see now team backlogs. This is a small change, basically, just the icon, making sure that we understand that every team has their own backlog, and well, it's pulling from the program backlog that's on top of that. Not such big of a change. Biz, DevOps teams and support even. So you see that highlighted left below. Already mentioned about going away from development teams to agile teams, and agile teams could be more technical and could be more business-wise. They could be both working in Scrum and Kanban. Just an example of how I already worked towards this in a setup of an agile release train. What we did is to identify different types of work. We defined some features, and we defined different competencies that were needed to deliver that feature end-to-end, symbolized by colors. And based on the colors, we could see, okay, which different competences are needed per feature. And based on that, you can derive a kind of typical team setup. So this is just an example of how to reorganize a little bit. Have a look at your features. What do you need to deliver them really end to end? And based on that, you might have a clue on how to reorganize some teams here and there. Speeding up a little bit. Well, the customer centricity, we talked a little bit about that already. It's about the process of design thinking. And the customer centricity is really a mindset, right? It's the mindset of the customer first, the customer central. Design thinking is a process that helps you to come to the right solutions that are viable, feasible, desirable, and sustainable. If you would do an exam, this is always nice exam material, of course. The whole idea is to have the double diamond, to diverge and to converge. So Dean Leffingwell told about a nice startup with his daughter, and discussing with his daughter what to deliver in products and services. And they discovered they need 80% of the time in understanding the problem first. And I think that's the case for a lot of us as well. I think if we would look at our program backlog, there's a lot in there in general that says do this, do that. And there's not so much in there that says understand this problem, diverge, come with possible solutions, keep options open, and then converge, come to the next step in designing a right solutions and maybe multiple solutions. So I think we can learn a lot from this. It's easily explained in theory, but to do this in real life is pretty hard. Just click on the icons and you can see some tools that will help you out in this process of design thinking as well. So what else do we have? Well, a big one here. So this is the thing I typically like the very most. So we have PI objectives, that's not new. However, stretch objectives are not there anymore because they gave the wrong incentive. So it's now about uncommitted objectives. So they fit in the plan, that's not changed. We've looked at it. However, we cannot commit to them because of uncertainty, because of unknowns, because of things we cannot influence. So it's really pointing out now this is uncommitted. So this will save me a lot of discussions and explanations in the future. So I'm really happy with that. So for your next PI planning event, change your board and come up with objectives that says uncommitted PI objectives as well on team level and on art level. The Lean-agile mindset. Well, I think this is really what the role of the RTE is all about, to have a growth mindset and to grow your people. A lot that we can learn. So this takes practice, right? And you might need to have some training on how to achieve that growth mindset. But I would say just experiment a little bit. If you know that video of Brené Brown on vulnerability, then have a vulnerable approach and start to experiment with the growth mindset. And I think we all have some fixed stuff in our heads. That's natural. That's we all have that, but yeah, try to be aware of that because you are a leader. You are the coach of coaches, right? So have a look at it. The House of Lean, the safe House of Lean has changed a little bit, pointing out some of the things that changed. Well, on first thing left above in respect for people and culture is the generative approach, the generative culture. And I think this is for me was a new word, and I really, really like it. So it's all about having a safe performance-centric environment, right? And you can see some words here that are tied to it. So, and that's the first thing, the first bullet in respect for people and culture. I really like this generative performance-oriented approach, which is now central in the House of Lean. Innovative people, that is added to the innovation column here, to the innovation pillar, saying that, okay, we can be innovative as a business, but in the end, it's the people who need to innovate. It's our engineers and our developers that need to be innovative. They make the difference, right? So that's really pointing out that we are talking about people again. Innovation riptides, a new word as well. Innovation riptides, the idea there is that we cannot do some gambas and some hackathons, etc. We can do that, of course, but it's just not enough. This really ties into principle number 9, decentralized decision making, and have a real top-down and bottom-up approach to innovation altogether. So to really unleash the opportunities. And I think we have a huge task here as a release train engineer to unleash that opportunity for innovation bottom-up. Top-down, already there a little bit, and we cannot influence it that much, maybe as coach, but bottom up we can really influence it big time in our agile release train. So this is really a big call out for you, RTEs, to get out of your chairs and to make this happen, to have those innovation riptides coming up. Okay, and then the last one, based improvements on facts. Well, this is my personal favorite topic, so I will not talk about that too much. Safe principles. Well, we had 9 principles and now we have 10 principles. Awesome. Number 10 is organize around value. So to have your organization set up in a way that we deliver maximum value. And we have to organize or reorganize for that. And the way to do so is to have a network organization next to our hierarchical organization. So this is the dual operation mode that SAFe promotes. It was already there, but a little bit between the lines, and now it's really in your face, so to say. This is really helpful. So as RTE, you have a place in the org chart on the right side. And that helps for some things, for HR purposes, for instance, right? To give some security, some robustness to the system. And on the left side, we organize ourselves around value streams. And that's the network organization that we have in parallel to the hierarchical organization. So via this network organization, we can quickly adjust ourselves to organize around value. The dual operating model. The implementation roadmap, some minor changes there. The one that I'm pointing out here is that we had sustain and improve at the end of the whole, well, Dean always calls it the snake. But now this is translated into accelerate. And I really like that because acceleration means getting your RTEs on higher speed and your advanced Scrum Masters there. You can see the trainings that are correlated with it. So we need the RTEs to become more professional to accelerate the organization. So it's not about sustaining and improving. No, it's about accelerating, making things better. And how to do that? Well, we've got some measure and grow stuff. You can see that on top, right above, you see measure and grow in that icon. And there's some measure and grow stuff that you can do. There's a test that you could take. You're supported by that, and it leads to nice radiators that you can see on the left. It's like, whoa, what's this all about? So many topics. Yeah, this is really about all the competences and about the dimensions in the competence. So you might not want to start there because it's too scary maybe. But I would like to stimulate you to start on the left bottom to see, okay, what are the key 10 success factors of making this work and how to accelerate. So many agile release trains that I've seen from close by or started myself or involved with don't really have all these 10 success factors really good in place yet. So that's a good way to start. But you can do one and the other, of course. But have a look at the primary things to your art. So the basic things, are they really in good shape already? I would start there. And then, of course, as I said before, we have the RTE Summit on the right side. We have these articles that we write. We have these LinkedIn groups. And then there's more stuff. And I've written down Community of Practice 2.0 to accelerate the enterprise. So in the enterprise that I'm involved with right now, we, for instance, work with the group leads to form the group leads and let them form a community of practice. And the RTE is facilitating that, to have the hierarchical group leads all together. Okay, I'm seeing we're doing pretty well in time. I'm closing for some questions. Just showing a few things to accelerate. I would say start with some team measurements first, like how's the chemistry in your team and in the team of teams. Do some fun assessments during your Inspect in Depth workshop. And maybe later on you can have more professional dashboards in measuring how you're doing on agility, business agility. So this is a graph that shows predictability. So this is my favorite graph. So for Agile restraints, measuring their predictability as holy grail. If you become more predictable, performance comes by itself. So that's, I would say, next level. And then of course, lead times, wait times, queue stuff, etc. Start to measure that, measure and grow. But start simple and start in a way that you can really repeat it over time. So it's not that difficult to invent a new measurement or a metric. It's really hard to do that over and over again to create a trend and to be able to steer on that trend and to create actionable information that allows you to improve. Cumulative flow diagrams, of course, this is very important to do to understand the flow in your system. Most of the times, Agile restraints don't start with cumulative flow diagrams, that will come over time. But of course, really valuable. Okay, so that was it from my end. The most important topics for the RTE covered here. I see that we have some questions, and now I need to see how I can get to the questions. So I'm gonna. Yeah, you can mention them. Okay, there are some questions asked. I'm not able to magic them on the screen. This is computer stuff, but I have them here anyway. So there's a question from Ryan. An Agile team has the Scrum Master, product owner, and then the rest of the team. They used to call developers. What do we call them now? Team members? Exactly. So we have team members. So we have two specific roles, product owner, Scrum Master, and the team. And that's the Agile team. So that's a pretty straightforward answer. And well, the teams can use Scrum and Kanban. And what we see is that business-oriented teams probably will use the Kanban way of working more than Scrum. But yeah, they can figure that out for themselves. But that's essentially the answer to the question. Are there more questions? Why is uncommitted that important versus stretch? Well, because most of the time the stretch objectives were interpreted wrongly. So stretch, let me put it from this end. It was used to close important discussions during PI planning events, saying, okay, we don't have really time for it, or it doesn't fit, or too complex, or whatever. If you would have that discussion with your product owner as a team, or with your client during PI planning event, or with your stakeholder, then 9 out of 10 discussions were closed with, okay, let's make a stretch objective out of it. So the team would think, we're not going to do it because it's stretched. And the business owner would think, okay, they might do it because it's stretched. And that's really not leading to more alignment, right? It's fake information, fake news. So saying it's uncommitted is really underlining the fact that, okay, we have looked at it, we have estimated the size, we have planned. However, there are things there that are out of our hand and we cannot influence that. So that's why we make it stretched. Dear stakeholder, know this upfront. If you see ways to make it, well, so that we can influence it by hiring a new person, by making sure that we have that test environment available or whatever, then of course, then we can take it out of stretch and put it into the normal committed objectives. Another one there. Hi there. Is there anything different in the work between the RTE and Scrum teams with a new essential level? No, these roles are still there. So we have the Scrum Master in the team and we have the Chief Scrum Master in the team of teams. So not such a big difference. I think there's only more opportunities, especially for the release train engineer to behave more as a coach for the whole enterprise. What practice of an RTE would be depreciated in SAFe 5.0? I don't think so, that there's practices of an RTE that would be depreciated. However, if you are a highly technical skilled release train engineer that loves to dive into technical details, what I would not advise you to do. And then you are moving more towards business agility and then figuring out how you can deliver more business solutions as agile release trains. And for that, you will need non-technical people on board as well. It might feel inconvenient for you if you're a highly technical skilled person. But besides that, I don't think there's any practice that would be depreciated. I think it only strengthens our core competences as servant leaders and helping the organization to strive in this agile age. So there's only opportunities as I see it in SAFe 5.0. Do we need an additional enterprise coach along with the RTE? I don't think that you need an additional enterprise coach. However, well, I'm an external consultant. I am sometimes an interim and hired RTE or a coach for the RTE. And I, of course, see the effect of that sometimes. As an external person, I can ask stupid questions and I can say some stupid things, and I can also, well, shake up the situation a bit by bringing it more to the core values and discuss more essential things, I would say. But per se, you don't need an enterprise coach. However, as a group of RTEs, you might have some ideas about how that could be helpful for you to help you into taking next steps. Because I'm sometimes challenged as well to take a next step, right? To step up. And sometimes you need a person beside you that gives you a kick in the butt to make that next step. Even if you know you can do it yourself, we all can use that forcing power, that forcing sticks sometimes. So yeah, it can be useful to have a coach, additional coach on board to make things happen. I believe in that, yeah. Which one? What changes from your point of view, or what should we consider at least? I don't see big changes. So if you would go to 5.0 as an enterprise, which is kind of you can do that fluently, I would say. It's not an exam as an enterprise that you have to take. I would just dive in to this material, read the stuff and see what's in there, what makes sense to you, and see it as a whole bunch of new opportunities that you can take advantage of and to make things better in your agile release train to start with. So I think you're now have more a backup in the framework for you to focus more on your leadership stuff, on making sure that we do innovate. And so I think it's just opportunities really, and not saying that you need to change per se, because on the lower end, the bottom end of the framework, it's Scrum on steroids still, and we don't see the biggest changes there in the past version. So I've entered SAFe from 3.0. We did not even have an icon for a customer back then. And on the bottom end of the framework, it's Scrum on steroids, and we don't see the biggest changes there, luckily. However, there's in 5.0, looking at more business agility, I think there's more opportunities to play a more influential role with more impact in your enterprise. But it's for you to take. Nobody's gonna ask that from you, but you, looking at the framework, you can take that opportunity to have more positive impact on the enterprise. I strongly believe in that. Other questions? Is there a recommended course for non-technical business-oriented people to help them to join an agile team while adapting there? I don't think there's a specific course yet. We are working with Scaled Agile to come up with courses. For instance, for an enterprise, we will build a SAFe for Team course for engineers, for hardware, electronic engineers, for instance. So probably there will be a course coming up for more business-oriented people. There is, however, a kind of implementation roadmap for these people in SAFe. So if you would click on the team, then there's a small explanation about how they can enroll in an agile release train. So it's first about adapting some of the processes, then joining one of the value streams, and then maybe joining even an agile release train or a specific team. So there's some explanation about that. My personal take there is if you already needed these people to deliver real end-to-end value, then you probably know who the people are that you should have on your Agile release train. And if you explain it to them in the right way, they see a lot of added value as well themselves, right? Because they already interact a lot with the people in your Agile release train, with the teams in your Agile release train. So it makes their life more convenient as well, because they see the added value, less handovers, less waiting time, more interaction. So I would just take it there. And this is the network organization, right? Not the hierarchical fixed organization, which has some good stuff in there as well. But this is the network enterprise that we can shape ourselves in a way to deliver maximum value, to create business agility together. So take it step by step and start with a good conversation with these guys. Last question. What's the last question? What are additional values to business and RT now can deliver using the 5.0 guideline? Well, additional values to business, I think that the highest value of the release train engineer, well, the main purpose of the RTE is to improve flow of value. So if you would take the house of Lean, at the roof you have more value, more quality in a robust way for our customer. And looking at business agility forces us as Agile release train, as RTE, to not only look at a technical delivery and to improve the technical stuff. Because the question is the customer really paying for that? Is it an end-to-end product? No, most of the times we need to deliver business solutions, right? And I think that we as RTEs can take a broader view on how we actually deliver business value end to end, right? So the scope of an Agile release train will be broadened as well, probably. So on the exploration end and market research end, and at the delivery end, like more the contractual or financial end, we will tap a little bit more in those ends. And I think that will be way more interesting. And the good thing there is that the end customer that is paying our salary in the end will, in the end, experience the difference in more value delivered in shorter time, right? Because we have less handovers in our system, because we organize ourselves to deliver more value via our value streams. And who are driving that? I think the RTE is driving that. We are the coaches, we are the chief scrum masters. If we're not doing that, who is, right? I think this is the cool thing for RTEs, to have way more positive impact. Of course, the organization will need to understand that, and they will be surprised here and there if we start to talk about business value and business agility. But hey, this is SAFe 5.0. Let's see what we can do there together. So I would like to end there for now. People are looking at me very angry, so I could do this for hours. It was my first time. It was my pleasure to have you. Please send some comments and share me some notes and some second thoughts. Maybe we could take that into account in one of the RTE summits, or maybe we could take that in our next article, our white paper for the RTE. 7 Habits of Highly Effective RTEs. And maybe we could even set up another webinar later on, and I could come back to some of the specific questions that you have asked us for this webinar, and I could come back to that in more detail maybe. Well, for now, I'd like to thank you all for joining me from wherever you are in the world. Stay safe, and maybe we will meet again at one of the RTE summits in person. Okay, have a good one. Cheers.